Hi, my name is Indigo.
And I'm Krug.
And welcome to Game Gorgon. Thank you so much for joining us for your gaming news. First, we're going to go ahead and talk our very first episode about Destiny 2.
Welcome to a world without light.
Which, if you're lucky enough to be on a console, you're playing that right now while listening to us in the background.
Yep.
It made a ton of new changes to better improve. One of the main reasons why they decided to do Destiny 2 versus just making an expansion like every other MMO out there, they had to actually do this because of all of the negative press and all of just the history of Destiny 1. And they thought, hey, we're going to come out with Destiny 2. We're going to punch this out. We're going to disregard all of the negatives that was the last one and bring forward the new. There's a lot of really cool changes along with that. If you are a returning player, you are basically going to lose all of your epic items. You're going to lose all of your powers. You're going to lose everything. And you're going to start all over based in the story. If you're a new player, none of that matters to you.
Like me.
Yeah.
Haven't played Destiny before except for the beta, which was wonderful.
Mm-hmm. The really interesting thing that they've done to kind of separate old players and new players is the fact that your Ghost, which, if you guys don't know, is this kind of like floating, robotic
ball of comic relief.
Remember when I told you that you fly too fast? Forget I said that. Fly fast.
If you're a returning player, you're going to get a completely separate set of dialogue than new players. New players, when they come across new enemies, it's going to give them descriptions of who they are, what their background is, and all of that fun stuff. Well, you've already heard all of that in Destiny 1 if you're a returning player. So they just kind of completely skip that. Like, no, we're just going to give them new dialogue, new information that they didn't have from the previous version, which... Well, I played on console last time. I'm going to be playing on PC. I don't have that option. I'm still super cool with that idea.
Yeah, I like the concept of treating returning players or veteran players as veterans and like giving them a little bit more of a... and it's not like, an advantage or anything.
No.
It's just sort of, here's a fun little quirk of the game that you get to experience.
Yeah. Their new zone is actually the largest Destiny map that they've had, which isn't saying a tremendous amount, but how they're doing their missions within that is really important and really interesting. So now when you enter a map, it isn't just a single patrol mission that you're running around just killing random stuff. You're actually going to go to these maps and you're going to actually have pings on the map that will show you where public events are, where rally points are, where there's quests, where there's things for you to do. And then it will also show you timers of how long until the next event is going to be in these different areas.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but last time Destiny was almost 100% instance-based. Like, you didn't have any sort of open world thing, right? It was... For missions.
Yeah.
You had like a hub, right, where you could interact with other people and stuff like that.
You had the hub, but when you would go to these instances, they would be like, they wouldn't just be you. They would be you and like a possibility of 10 players. Like,
Gotcha.
And if you went as a group, you guys could go and then you could interact with other players. It wasn't like an open map like a normal traditional MMO where there are hundreds of thousands of possible people playing in this one zone.
Right, and this is sort of what that felt like. Like, it felt a lot more of an inclusive space, a lot more of an interesting space with like dynamic events and kind of the way you'd expect other more popular AAA MMOs to handle their like world, their environment. And coming from somebody who hasn't played Destiny before because of the lack of a console variable in my life, it's a lot more compelling for me to get into Destiny. And the gameplay was wonderful in the beta. We didn't unfortunately get to explore any of those open areas during the beta, but the gameplay stood on its own for sure. And I can't wait to get into that like open world type of gameplay style.
There is a significantly more clear and concise storyline altogether. So previously in the last Destiny...
This is so silly. I didn't know this until you wrote it down. It was just like, wait, what?
Yeah. So in the previous Destiny, there wasn't a like centralized big bad. It was just the darkness. And it was so happenstance and random why you were fighting certain enemies at certain times, and it just didn't make a lot of sense, but you're just like, all right, well, I'm going to go and kill things because that's how I get loot and get experience. Now there's an actual bad guy, which is Dominus Gal, who is the leader of the Red Legion. And he's kind of the big bad who just basically takes the light, gets rid of your power, and kicks you off the edge of a ship, which starts you off at ground zero, and you have to find out what being a guardian really means.
Why you gotta be so corny about it? Yeah, it's in like the first cutscene. In not the first cutscene. Maybe it's after the like tutorial mission. You get to find out this is the big bad. This is what he did. These are the things you have to like overcome, and it sets up for the veteran players to kind of be nerfed back down to a beginning level because of how the bad kind of removes your source of power, and so. It's a story element. It's justification for nerfing players. It does a lot of good things. Having an enemy, like a visible, tangible enemy, is also a really great step.
They also overdid the loot system, so now you're going to have less random rolled items. Actually, no random roll. They're getting rid of that completely, so that when you get an epic level item, you're not getting really crappy perks associated to it. Not only that, they're also getting rid of. Let me take that step back. They're reducing the amount of encrypted items, like significantly. So before, when you would go out and you'd play, you'd get an encrypted item, then you'd have to go and get it de-encrypted, and then you could finally use the item. This new change is huge because now when you get that new cool item, you can just immediately equip it and keep going. This is leaning towards keeping people in the game, playing longer hours, playing more actual action hours versus sitting in the designated towns and just waiting for things to happen. If you're in a group of 5 and you're going, or a group of 4, if you're going around taking things out, it's just boom, boom, boom now versus previously where you just kind of
pacing is really
one
important.
mission. All right, guys, I got to go back and do all this other stuff. Oh well, now that you're doing that, I'm gonna go pee, and while you're peeing, I'm gonna go get something to eat, and then you end up like an hour later. All right, let's do the second mission.
I gotta talk about pee. I think that I don't know why they went this direction with the encryption decryption thing, because Diablo basically has the same system with unidentified items, and they just make it easy for you to identify them. You can click on an item, click on an item, and you get to roll on the table and figure out what stats you get. And then they also have the Book of Cain in all of the hubs for each act that lets you just bulk identify things for when you get later in the game, and that's a really common thing for you to have to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is another way of approaching it where they just kind of remove it from being something monotonous by not having it happen as often, but
Well, that's good, right?
definitely worth the pacing benefit. Like, I don't understand why you'd want your players to have to stop what they're doing, go back to town, and like basically do chores. Like that's not what this game is for. This game is for getting out and killing things. The less I have to do to maintain my inventory, the better.
But they're now also making it possible for you to be your own special snowflake.
Don't touch me, please.
Oh, sorry. They're actually increasing the amount of overall designs of armor and weapons, but not only that, they're also supplying additional formats to be able to have unique items. So not just, I've got X pistol, but I've got X pistol with this color shader on it, with this special effect, and I have this interesting emote that my character can do. And because they're expanding that, you're going to find less people walking down the hall that has the exact same armor set as you, the exact same shaders as you, and making you your own little person.
So unlike what he's saying regarding the scarcity of shaders making people be a little bit more creative as far as how they use them is concerned, I think it's going to be a little bit more detrimental for newer players and for lower level players. I think it's going to kind of force them to not use shaders and kind of hoard them, because lower levels you're swapping out gear constantly, right? And so you don't want to waste this consumable item on this piece of gear that you're going to throw away in 20 minutes or 10 minutes.
But you can still look really cool.
Yeah, and I super agree that having more unique item models is a really great thing. Like the more of that you can cram into your game without making it like a 700 gigabyte file, the better, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. It's just the shader thing I'm not super on board with. I enjoy like Diablo and WildStar, the way they implement dyes, having them be an account unlock or maybe a character unlock if you want to like limit it a little bit, although I don't see that being a huge thing in Destiny since there are only 3 classes. But that's my opinion. You have yours, whatever.
Well, and the last thing is that a lot of people are actually feeling that because they move this over, and the fact that these shaders are in the microtransaction like shop, that they're saying that this is actually a money grab, that you're just doing this so that we spend more money to unlock these shaders over and over and over again for new pieces of gear. Well, the designers did come out and say, no, we want this to be the reason why you go back to these dungeons. We want you to go back to those.
Right.
Let us know down in the comments below what you guys think about the shaders. Do you think that this is a money grab, or do you think this is going to allow players to be more of that special snowflake? We really would like to hear from you guys. Until next time, guys, this is Game Gorgon, and I'm Indigo.
And I'm Krug.
Peace.